Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Lisa Levinson. I'm the campaigns director for In Defense of Animals, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this event that will be focused on Indu, the elephant from the Phoenix Zoo, who sadly passed away. This is our memorial for Indu, and we're very grateful to all of you for joining in today. First, I'd like to take a moment and introduce my colleague. We've got Mary Easonsey. She's here from In Defense of Animals.
Hello.
Mary, she'll be chatting with you in the chat box if you're here with us on Zoom. We also have Courtney Scott here. She is our consultant for elephants, and she manages our 10 worst zoos list every year. Hi, Courtney. How are you?
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for introducing me, and thank you for being here too.
Yes, so we're delighted to have you. We also have some other special guests who we will introduce as we continue today. For now, I would like to pass the mic, so to speak, over to Courtney, who will introduce our first special guest.
Thanks, Lisa. Well, I'm going to start out by introducing our special guest, Dina Metzger. Dina, I'm very honored to introduce her. She's a poet, essayist, playwright, storyteller. She's published over 12 books, including my favorite title, A Reign of Nightbirds. She is also an earth activist, a healer, and a medicine woman. In addition to all those things, she has a very deep personal connection with elephants. So, Dina, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Please
Thank you, Courtney.
grant us a few words of wisdom.
So, thank you, Courtney and Lisa and Mary and Jody. Did I get everyone? I think I missed one person. I'm not sure, but thank you all for doing this. Dear Indu, your friends are gathered on your behalf. In the very last days of 2016, I was at Tula Tula Preserve in South Africa. I wanted to visit the elephants there, and also Lawrence Anthony, known as an elephant whisperer, who had created this refuge for them when their lives were threatened on their native lands further north. He had to fence his entire land and so confined the small herd in a boma while that work was finished, and they accommodated to the land. They were not happy and kept trying to escape, and he realized that he and a ranger needed to live just on the other side of the fence until the elephants adjusted. They did so 24/7 for many weeks. During that time, a very deep bond formed between Anthony and Nana, the matriarch, and all the rest of the elephants. As it happened, Anthony died suddenly while receiving an award in a nearby city before I could come to Tula Tula. You probably have read how the elephants gathered at his house at the moment of his death, as they had whenever he returned from a journey, even if he had changed the date or time of his return. They were there when he arrived. And so we might assume his spirit came home when he died, and the elephants met it. His spirit and their spirits interconnected. This is evidence of elephants' spiritual nature. Let us then see the possibility that Indu, that you are also here with us, that you know we have gathered on your behalf, and that you have joined us. Many of you know of my meeting with the ambassador elephant at Chobe in 1999, and in the years afterwards, when I was in Botswana, he appeared with his herd or family at the last hour, the last day, at the Chipungo tree where we had first met. This is further evidence of the range of the spiritual nature of elephants. When I was planning to visit Tula Tula, a thought was planted in my mind that I assumed came from the ambassador. I was to greet the matriarch of the herd, Nana, and her matriarch in training, Frankie, as I would an indigenous elder whose tribe or territory I wished to visit. I explained this to the ranger at Thula Thula, who was, to say the least, amused or skeptical, but finally took us to a place where, if she wanted to engage, Nana might appear. She did. You can read the details of this meeting in my novel, La Vieja, A Journal of Fire. I introduced everyone in the truck and communicated the equivalent of the following. I ask you to listen to this as if we are speaking a version of this to the spirit of Indu who is with us. We are here on pilgrimage to make a bond between the human realm and the elephant realm. We take this seriously, even more seriously than I would take a similar diplomatic visit to any other greatly respected leader of a human community. I don't know what we will do, how we will present whatever we gain or understand from the intimacy we hope will be possible, a true connection between you and us, between the members of your community and ourselves. But our hope is that the earth and your people will benefit. We want ourselves and then all other humans to return to true connection, common concerns, and right relationship with you and your people. We would like to give back something of what you have given us. We believe we are trustworthy. We believe Spirit has sent us to each other. These words are sincere. Please allow us to form alliances with each other. And so I speak on behalf of everyone on this call to you, Indu. And I speak on behalf of right relationship also in the spirit realm. We may not have met you, Indu, person to person, but we have gathered because you are in our hearts and because we recognize the being that you were and mourn the tragedy of your life in confinement and the tragedy of your death before you could be released to a different life in the natural world among your peers. But in your honor, we carry such a hope for all elephants now in captivity, recognizing that you are, as they are, spiritual beings. We devote ourselves to a free future for all elephant people. Let us take a moment of silence to be with Indu. If you can feel her presence, please open your heart to her. I give it back to you, Courtney.
Thank you, Dina. That was very beautiful. And I really share your hope that we can connect with elephants and understand better how to help them. That is my goal. And I really appreciate you being along for the journey and sharing your wonderful, deep connection with all the elephants. And anyone who would like to learn more about Dina's work, we've shared her website address in our chat. So feel free to check that out. You can learn a lot more about her, all of her work. She's also a teacher and a consultant. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. So anyway, thank you again, Dina. That was very, very special. So now we're going to move on. Mary, we can start the slideshow.
Sure thing, just a moment. Share. Yes.
Okay, so this just gives our introduction. This is the memorial for Indu. So let's go on to the next slide. This is our little memorial graphic for Indu. She lived, well, she was 59 when she died. 58 of those years she spent in captivity in zoos. She was taken at 1 year old from Thailand, shipped across the world to live in her first zoo, which was the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago, which would have been her first time to experience winter. And she probably spent quite a few months indoors during those very cold winters in Chicago. It's hard to know how many or if she formed bonds with other elephants. She probably did. She was very young at the time. She lived there till she was 14 years old. And then at that time, she was sent to the Houston Zoo. At the Houston Zoo, it's no doubt they sent her there for breeding, because at the Houston Zoo, she proceeded to be exploited for breeding, and she had 6 babies, all by Thai. No, his name is Thailand. They call him Thai. He was the oldest elephant at the Houston Zoo, and he died just last year. After he was being exploited for breeding. He sired 20 babies during his lifetime, and 6 of those were Indus. Now, sadly, all of Indu's babies died. 4 of them died at stillbirth. 2 of them died from the elephant encephalitis herpes virus, which is very common and often fatal disease in zoo elephants. 1 died at 1 year old, and the other died at 3 years old. So it's hard to imagine how much grief that Indu suffered through because of all these losses, especially when you think about an elephant's long gestation period. They're pregnant for 22 months. So just think of that, 6 births, 22 months each, and every single one of them, she must have mourned over. So anyway, after she spent about 16 years there at the Houston Zoo, likely forming some friendships there, and she then was sent to the Phoenix Zoo in 1998. And there she lived for the rest of her life, the 26 years left of her life. So Mary, let's go to the next slide. And this is where she lived at the Phoenix Zoo. And as you can see, it's a pretty barren exhibit. Shockingly enough, we could see very little shade in this exhibit. And Phoenix during the summer is scorchingly hot. So it's just kind of shocking that the zoo didn't provide more shade. And the only thing she had to cool herself off was a shallow pool, but she had to swap that out with the rhino next door. So during these hot summers, either she or the rhino was able to have deep, brief periods with the pool. So this was just a very barren, deprived, impoverished life that Indu lived at the Phoenix Zoo. Now, there were 2 elephants there at the zoo, Reba and Sheena, who died a few years ago, and Indu never formed a bond with either one of those elephants. And it's hard to say exactly why. It could be that she was something in her disconnected when she went through so many moves and had to break up so many bonds with other elephants, or because of the loss of her 6 babies, or because she just didn't like Reba and Sheena. I mean, elephants are like people. They like to choose their friends. And oftentimes zoos just throw them in together, kind of hit or miss. And this was a miss. She never did get along with them. But, the zoo at that point, or even years before that, should have sent poor Indu to a sanctuary so she could have healed from her enormous trauma that she suffered in her life at the zoo. Finally, what happened is the whistleblower let us know that the zoo was about to put her down. And we were surprised by that because there had been no mention by the zoo of any illness. Now, of course, at 59 years old, Indu was an old elephant for a zoo elephant. They can live longer in the wild, but in captivity, and especially in a zoo, they typically don't. So by that time, she no doubt had chronic arthritis. And the zoo finally admitted that, but it seemed like her death came kind of suddenly, and we don't have access to the medical records. So it's hard to say exactly what happened there. But in any case, her suffering now is over. And for that, we're glad. She go to the next slide and you'll see a short video of Indu and what her days were like there at the zoo. So you can see, I don't know if you can tell from this video, but she's just swaying back and forth at the fence line there. And that's pretty much what we saw her do both times when our volunteer would go there and get video of her. So this is typical of elephants in zoos. They develop this what's called stereotypical or zoonotic behavior. And it's been speculated it's a way to soothe themselves. Another neuroscientist has said that from his study, it's an indication of brain damage. So there's a lot of really trauma that's happening to elephants in zoos. So we can move on now to the next slide. And I'm just going to read this little statement from our friend Kirsten Cluster, who is the founder of Elephant Guardians of Los Angeles, and she was not able to be here today. But I'm going to read this statement to you. Indu deserved to be recognized and honored for who she was, a highly intelligent, social, and compassionate being who needed space and community to live a full and enriching life. As the largest land mammal on Earth, elephants coexist within complex, fluid communities and vast, challenging, and dynamic ecosystems. They require miles to walk, forage, and engage in their unique social and cultural activities. Elephants, like Indu, do not and cannot thrive when confined in a zoo where they are treated as objects for human amusement and profit. R.I.P. dear Indu, far from this world that failed you. In your name, may we honor the natural life ways of elephants by ending the cruel practice of captivity. We will remember you and your birthright of freedom. Thank you, Kirsten. So I want to say, finally, the one good thing we can say in Indu's honor, the Phoenix Zoo has decided to close their elephant exhibit. So no more elephants like Indu or suffer and die, at least at that zoo. With the Phoenix Zoo closing, 40 zoos have now closed their elephant exhibits. And if the LA Zoo decides to not just pause its elephant program, but proceeds to close the elephant program, which we will be encouraging them to do, it will be 41 zoos. So that is a trend of the future, because as you can see from Indu's life, it's a tragic and very sad life. And so it needs to end. So thank you for joining us today and listening to us, and for all of the concern that you've shared for Indu, signing our petition for her, and all of the things that you support for us. So thank you so much. And now we're going to move on to Lisa, who will discuss our next part of our presentation here today.
Thank you so much, Courtney, for sharing the story of Indu, this tragic tale of woe. And also to Mary for helping us with the slide presentation. So next we have on our program, we have a reading from an animal chaplain, Jody Jacobs. She's going to be joining us today, and she has a passion for elephants. So we're really grateful to her for sharing with us today. Hey, Jody.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, everyone. We gather today in sorrow and in remembrance of Indu, taken from her Asian homeland at just 1 year old, and who for nearly 6 decades carried the weight of captivity on her gentle shoulders. For the last 26 years, Indu resided at the Phoenix Zoo, where her only companions, Sheena and Reba, died in 2020 and 2021. Since that time, Indu was alone, bereft of any company, in a barren, desolate enclosure. Though she lived almost her entire life under horrific circumstances, let us choose to remember instead the elephant she was: majestic, sentient, deserving of grass beneath her feet, deep water to ease her aching joints, and the gentle rumble of elephant song shared with companions. May Indu's memory drive us to demand true sanctuary for every elephant still in captivity. In honoring her life and mourning her passing, let us become unrelenting advocates so that no other gentle soul is left to suffer in silence. Rest in peace, dear Indu. May your spirit roam free, and may we never forget the lessons your life has taught us. May it be so.
Thank you so much, Jody. We really appreciate you joining us as an animal chaplain with that reading. Very, very deep and meaningful. So now we would like to hear from all of you. We'd like to invite you, if you are interested, those people who've joined us on Zoom, if you have something that you would like to say, any thoughts that you have, what we'll do is invite you to use the raise hands feature, and you can find that. It's under the react button, and if you click on it, then you'll be able to find the raise hands in that location. And also, I'd like to invite Mary back up here with us. She's been chatting with you in the chat box, so we're so grateful to her. And she also may have some things that she wants to.
Yeah, there's just been a lot of love coming in from the chat box. Thank you, everyone, for saying such kind words. And it's just wonderful to be with people who share this deep respect and profound gratitude to Indu and all elephants for just being who they are and being amazing, just being themselves. It's really heartwarming to have that. So thank you, everyone, for everything you're saying in the chat. It's really beautiful. I don't know if anyone has any, we were saying we wanted to give people opportunity to say any poems or pieces that they wanted to bring forward earlier. No one's been saying anything like that, but there are some questions about what we can do about it. But I don't know what you would like to do. Like there's one question in the Q&A, Lisa. So
Sure. Well, let's see if we have a Q&A question. Looks like from Lisa, how can we get CITES to enforce the listing for elephants to free them all? So this would be a question perhaps Courtney may be able to address. So I'll add Courtney in here.
Well, CITES does have regulations on the import of elephants. So right now, actually, zoos are not that not able to really get elephants from the wild the way they used to. Now, Indu, they got Indu, of course, because she was born in 1965. But now elephants are very seldom imported from the wild. So occasionally zoos will sneak around and import them kind of clandestinely, like they did the what's called the stolen 18 from Swaziland. They took them in the middle of the night before the court could come down and weigh in on it. But most of the time now, what they have to do is they breed. And this is a problem. This is the biggest problem because all they're doing is breeding more elephants into lifetimes of captivity. And even in captivity, in zoos, they can live to 50 years old sometimes. A lot of times they die younger, but a lot of them, we pointed out last year on our 10 worst zoos, the problem with aging out of elephants. They're no longer useful for breeding, but they just simply wither away and die in a zoo. So we're just perpetuating that. So the problem continues whether they import them from the wild or not. I mean, we're glad at least that there are some restrictions, and CITES does have restrictions. Also, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has restrictions on importing live animals and on importing some importing products, body parts. And there's different states that have different regulations on that as well. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you so much, Courtney.
There are more questions in the Q&A now. It's becoming more popular.
Okay, sure thing. So we have Jeanette is asking about the petition and is there a link? So hopefully we can put that into the chat.
For Indu, is she talking about for Indu?
Well, for Indu, I believe since Indu has passed away, that alert was deactivated.
Right.
Is there another one, Courtney, that you might recommend?
I think Mary, I think I asked you to put
Just the
latest.
whole thing.
Yeah, put all of the take action. We have
Yeah.
quite a number of alerts right now on our website. I believe the latest one might be Little Rock, if I'm not mistaken. And they have two elderly elephants there. One is like 65 years old. So those elephants need sanctuary too. So you could sign that alert in memory of Indu because unfortunately she didn't make it out. But there's still a chance for these other elephants to do that. So thank you
so
for
much.
asking that question.
Yeah, we appreciate you signing the alerts and especially in memory of Indu.
Yeah.
There's another question here from Alana. Alana was at the Bronx Zoo in New York last week where there was only one elephant.
I'm sorry, which zoo is that?
The Bronx Zoo?
Oh, only one that they saw.
Yes.
Okay.
And it broke her heart to see the elephant. Do you know anything more about that? And what do you recommend to speak up about it?
Right. Well, we do have an alert for Happy and Patty too on our website. You just search Happy and Patty or the Bronx Zoo, either one. As you probably know, the Non-Human Rights Project filed a habeas corpus petition for those two elephants. And there actually is one council member in the borough of the Bronx borough, who is advocating to make new rules for zoos. So they would have to have much bigger space or they would have to retire them to sanctuary. Unfortunately, there is no news that I have on that. I do know one other piece of news. I think the New York Bar Association Animal Rights Division endorsed that decision by that counselor and is advocating for those two elephants. So if you only saw one of the elephants there, that's probably because one of the elephants might have been indoors at that time. I don't know is that they always, both of them have access. In fact, they don't both always have access to the yard at the same time because Patty and the other elephant, Happy, are not compatible. That's a long story involved with that, but yeah, so they only have one elephant at a time normally in the yard. And it's a strange zoo. I know you noticed if you went there, they have a monorail that goes by the elephants. So you have to take a quick look to even see the elephants before it zooms by. It's the weirdest zoo.
There was another great question. Where someone asked, where is the question? Well, they asked how many sanctuaries are there that we can even rely on to be able to take care of elephants that are being freed from captivity.
Right. Well, in the US, there are 3. There's PAWS in Northern California, the Performing Animal Welfare Society, which is started by Pat Derby and her partner Ed Stewart, and they have, I think, around 7 elephants now. They have taken elephants from zoos, including the Toronto Zoo, the San Francisco Zoo, and the Alaska Zoo. There is also the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee, which has more elephants and actually is normally the one that zoos pick because it is accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. There is also a fairly new sanctuary in Georgia, Elephant Refuge North America, founded by Carol Buckley, who also co-founded the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee. There are 3 elephants there, and she could definitely take more and has in fact offered to take both Billy and Tina from the LA Zoo and all 3 of the female elephants, which are now 4 elephants with a new baby, at the Oregon Zoo. So those are the choices we have here in the US.
Thank you for asking that question. Very interesting answer as well. So we do have a couple people who raise their hands, and what I'm going to do is click this allow to talk button, and then you hopefully will hear your voice and you can share what you would like with us. So we'll start with Kate. Hi, Kate, you can unmute if you'd like to share.
Hey, I didn't know I was going to get unmuted. Why are there, first of all, whatever happened to Minnie, Comerford? I don't know if anybody ever found out. And are there ever demonstrations in front of these horrid zoos? I mean,
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of animal rights demonstrations and you know, we did them for the Ringling Brothers and factory for, you know, but are there ever demonstrations to let the zoo know that, I mean, they know people aren't happy, but also just to educate people, let people know that this elephant is suffering. These elephants, they're all suffering.
Yes, well, that's a good question. And yes, there are. There are some zoos that do more demonstrations than others. The LA Zoo has been doing it for, I think, 20 years.
Oh, geez.
They're still protesting, even though Billy and Tina have been sent to the Tulsa Zoo. They're still out in front because there's some hope that the city council could possibly pass a motion and mandate that the zoo provide sanctuary options, which would mean the Tulsa Zoo would have to send those elephants to sanctuary. There's also been quite a few demonstrations at the Oregon Zoo. There's been demonstrations at the Bronx Zoo in New York, Zoo Tampa in Tampa, Florida. And I'm not thinking of them all right now at this moment, but
Yeah,
there's been
well, many.
demos around the country for sure. And you're right, that's a very important part of this. And IDA does provide signs and flyers to hand out to visitors to educate them about the situation. And it does help. There's been visitors, in fact, that I've experienced actually turn away from the zoo when they found out what really goes on. So that's an important part of our activism.
Yes, thank you so much, Kate, for that great question. And we did do a protest outside the Phoenix Zoo for Indu as well.
Phoenix Zoo. Right.
Well, I not that I want to see these elephants in captivity, but I sure would like to be out there protesting. But I live in Vermont. We don't have any zoos.
Vermont. I don't, you know, the closest one, I don't know of one in Vermont. There is in Massachusetts. There's one elephant left at the Buttonwood Park Zoo.
Well, there's the Comerford. The
Right,
Comerford.
that's the roadside zoo, right?
That's the one they used to bring
Mini.
3 elephants to Springfield, Mass every year. And then 2 of them died, and no one knows what happened to the last one, Minnie.
Well, let me try and find out for you. If you want to email me, I'll check into that. I do know that there's an organization that was working on that along with, they worked for many years to help Nosy, as you may know.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, I was talking with somebody just last week about Newsy, yeah.
Right. And so we also advocated for Nosy for many years too, but also I know the people that are also very involved with that, and they would know about Minnie, I'm pretty sure. So if you want to email me, I think Mary can put my email in the chat.
I
And
just keep putting the info at ideausa.org there. That'll come to me and I can field it to you, Courtney. So
Okay.
any questions that we don't get to, I feel like we're coming on a lot of questions and we might not have time for all of them. But if there's any left over before we finish, info at ideausa.org and we'll field the questions for you.
That's
But there's,
probably in the Friday emails too, so.
right, there's
Thank you
lots
so
of
much.
great questions here in the Q&A. So.
All right,
Hey,
let somebody else talk. Thank you. Thank you.
and thank you very much. We also have Angela who's raised her hand. So we're going to invite you to speak, and this will be probably our last speaking question. So Angela, you're welcome to unmute yourself. Hi, Angela. You're welcome. You had your hand raised up. If you'd like to speak, you're welcome to do so. Possibly having a technical issue on her end. Oh, are you there, Angela? Okay, well, maybe we'll move forward with another question if you have one, Mary.
There is a question here about, let's see, about the breeding at zoos. They're saying that zoos have now doubled down on claiming that breeding is good, saying that the practice is to preserve a strong gene pool as a means of preserving the species, and for possible reintroduction to the wild. I've heard this called the Noah's Ark explanation. Why we wanted to have a stronger voice negating this claim, since an elephant born in captivity will never likely survive in the wild.
Right. Very good point. Yeah, breeding is a very huge problem, as I just touched on, and all they do is breed more suffering. They're not conserving elephants in any way, shape, or form. What we call that is a conservation con, and it's used over and over and over again. And the talking points for it come from a zoo industry body called the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And they basically hammer that message home and present it to the public to the point where it becomes embedded in, I think, the public psyche. So that's our job. And we appreciate all of you for continuing to speak up about it too. There is no conservation that happens in zoos by keeping elephants locked up for life. It's just, it's just counterintuitive, actually, if you think about it, because you're keeping them locked up. How is that saving their species in the wild? So they compute it all? No, it doesn't. So in other words, that's our job. And I appreciate you joining us and speaking up about it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Just one more opportunity to see if Angela, if you'd like to share. I think you're unmuted, so you're welcome to share if you'd like. And if not, we'll move to one other question. Okay, we'll go ahead. Just curious if I think the next one that we had here was Gail. You're welcome
So, yeah.
to share. You're welcome to unmute, Gail. Mm. Think. Oh, there you are, Gail. Would you like to unmute? No? Okay. The last opportunity we have here for speaking would be for, looks like Italy, via Campuchio, possibly. You had your hand up here. So we'll see if you're available and able to unmute.
It's like they're both muted.
Yes. Oh, there, possibly. Are you there, via Campuchio, if you'd like? Well, maybe what we'll do.
Hello.
Oh, hello there. Did you have something you wanted to share related to?
Yeah, sorry. My name's Amelia Rose. So I'm just inquiring about basically your organization and things. And what you just touched upon was quite a sensitive topic in terms of a breeding society. So you're telling me this is literally what they claim to be doing, to try and produce animals, and then it turns out that they're not actually doing that. It's inhumane. So then they're doing a different process. So what are the actual statistic levels that they will be more beneficial to be in the wild rather than in the zoo?
They won't go to
Like
the wild. Like the reintroduction process is not a thing that really happens. If the animal is born in a zoo, they'll stay in zoos.
Yeah, let me just make,
It's literally just like that. Because they always claim that eventually they're going to release them in the wild, and then not only that, the media also portrays that's how that's what they do in zoos, and then go and release them in the wild. So it's what the media also portrays, and I see it being a major problem, because we're losing a lot of animals in general, and it's quite sickening, to be honest.
yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
I mentioned one thing about releasing into the wild. That no, it doesn't happen in the US, but in South Africa, they have
Yeah.
actually released an elephant to the wild there, but they do it very slowly. Now, there in South Africa, of course, their zoo is a little closer to the wild than we are here in the US, right? No elephant is native to North America, but in Africa, they are native, right? So they have begun the process of rewilding one and maybe two elephants there from a zoo. And we'll see how that goes. You know, this is all new, but I just wanted to
It,
add that. That is
it's just the same as like when I see on toilet packaging, because I'm from the UK and from London, and when I see on toilet packaging and it says that we rebuild trees after you buy our products, and then you're thinking, are they actually building trees? And then you come and look, and rainforests have just gone, they're just destroyed. So, and not only that, it takes about 80 years to build a tree.
right.
So it's something stupid. It's like, why would you build trees? And not only that, they build them. I was watching a documentary. They build them in the wrong levels, so the wrong seasons of time, which means there's no regrowth, there's no reproduction of any living that can that can live in these conditions, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, no, that's a good analogy. That's why we call it the conservation con. It's as if they're telling you they're going to plant the trees and then they don't do it. So they're telling you they're going to rewild the elephants. They're not. You know, the fact that we have like even a small amount of rewilding efforts happening that Courtney was talking about is like so new. But it was never the plan. They were just going to stay in the zoo.
And
So bad.
mention that the other lie that zoos tell is that they give a lot of money to conservation in the wild. That's their newest thing, by the way. They're claiming how much they're helping by donating money, but it's a fraction of the money they spend on elephants in captivity. So that's another kind of subversion of the truth.
Thank you for your questions. Really appreciate.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And maybe just want to check to see if Dorothy, if you might want to, if you have a question or comment or condolences for Indu you'd like to share. Dorothy? Let's see. Well, I think, Mary, if there's another question or two we want to field, and then I do have a final comment that I'd like to share from someone here in the chat.
Oh, this is a very difficult question. Why are zoos refusing to send their aging elephants to sanctuaries and instead euthanizing them? Why was Indu euthanized at all if there was this opportunity to go to sanctuary?
Well, that's a good question, but unfortunately, we don't have the answer.
Mhm.
Because the zoo is a nonprofit, privately run zoo. So they're not subject to freedom of information requests. And that's how we would find out, is to get the medical records and the necropsy to assess exactly what happened. Because according to their own posting on social media, she was doing fine just a few weeks prior to their decision to kill her. I'm sure she did have chronic issues. There's no doubt about it, as I mentioned. But why they don't release them, that's another good question that we don't have the total answer for. There's probably some pressure put on them through the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. They don't want to start a precedent of just, retiring all their old elephants. They like to keep some of them in the zoos. They're profitable. I mean, I'm just giving you a few what I think are the reasons why. So it might depend upon the zoo itself, whether they have a lot of times they don't have the money to keep elephants. So that's one of the reasons they do retire them. But if they do have the funding and they do have pressure from the AZA and they are getting people to come to the zoo to see the elephant, well, you've got some motives there.
Thank you, Courtney. That's very informative. Well, I think, Mary, if there's another question, we can try another one. And
I actually think we've covered
most
most
of the
of
questions.
them. Someone was asking about Lucy, which I was just saying, we just responded to an email about that earlier today, Courtney. Someone was saying Gary's giving the same story again. So
Well,
it's unchanged.
we can point out there is a new film that just came out about Lucy, premiering it here in LA, or Lisa will be premiering it in LA, and it will tell her story, and it will hopefully help to bring more attention and more pressure on the Edmonton Valley Zoo to do the right thing for Lucy. So thank you for that question. Lucy needs all the prayers and help she can get.
Yes, that's a good point.
Thank you so much. And it looks like Gail has hand raised. We'll give this one a try. Hi, Gail. Are you able to unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Oh, finally. A few years ago, I wanted to leave a legacy to some animal. Uh, Places, and one of the places I thought of was the Bronx Zoo. And of course, I know about Happy. And I spoke with the woman who's in charge of legacies, who now is in charge of that same subject or in the New York Public Library. Anyway, I wrote to her and told her why I would not don't leave any money to the zoo because of Happy. And she called me several times. She invited me to come up there. I said, I've been there many times. I live in New York City, in Manhattan. And she sent me so much literature supporting why they have Happy. That at her advanced age, she would not be able to adjust to a new place, a sanctuary, Anyway, it was she tried very hard to get me to change my mind, but she was not successful at all. So at least I feel good about that. Of course, this is not in the United States, and I'm not talking about zoos, but I belong to an organization in India called Wildlife SOS, whose purpose is to save Asian elephants. It's a wonderful, wonderful organization. And there in India, they're trying to save the working elephants that plod day in and day out, on hot tarmac. Those elephants are either begging elephants or used for rides. And I feel guilty, but I was not educated then. But many years ago, when I was in Thailand, I did go on an elephant ride. But let's say I'm more educated now. Can I be heard?
Yes, you are heard, Gail. We so appreciate your advocacy, especially with regards to the legacy gift. And I think that they will definitely listen or heard what you had to say at this.
But I don't mean to interrupt you, but they didn't. This was several years ago when I was, doing my will, and I was thinking of places where I wanted to leave a sizable amount of money. And they did
Well,
not persuade me.
they didn't persuade you,
No.
which is excellent. However, I'm sure that your message went to their development team loud and clear that they were not receiving the funds due to the situation with Happy. So we
Right.
appreciate your advocacy at that level.
Right. And also there's one good thing about that zoo, and that is they will close their exhibit once those elephants die. And of course, we want them to go to sanctuary, not die. And keep working on that. But that'll be one more zoo with no elephants. And thank you for mentioning Wildlife SOS. I love their stories about the rescues. I'm sure you follow them too.
Oh, they're a wonderful organization.
Yeah.
They also educate the families and the people in the little villages and give them alternatives for making money with elephants.
Right. That's great. Yeah, they're a great organization, and there's some in Africa too that I really, really appreciate. They're saving elephants right there where they live so they can be rewilded. So there's a few, that's where elephants belong. So whenever people say, well, we have to keep them in zoos because they're all dying out, well, you can help them where they live. And that's where they can live into the future and preserve their species.
So thank you, Gail, for your sharing. So we're going to go ahead and move towards closing out our memorial for Indu. And I want to especially thank Mary for helping the chat box, for Courtney for your presentation and all of your wisdom, and to Jody for the reading, and also to Dina for her sharing as well. We want to thank all of you for being part of this. This is something we feel strongly about at In Defense of Animals, is to honor these animals who've passed away, to give them the reverence and grace that they deserve and dignity. So each one of you is part of this today, and we appreciate your participation. I wanted to read something from Charity, who wrote this beautiful piece in the chat box. I feel that Indu felt our love and dedication to her and other elephants. The mutual love is felt and eternal. They all live through us as we live through their now heavenly souls. Thank you for sharing that piece, that beautiful way to end our memorial. And thank you all for honoring Indu today. Many blessings.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.